fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, join me here for a bit of palaver on Hail to Stephen King. That is right, my favorite author, as you see from the tower of books behind me. That is right, and yes, you can just call me Fuego for short, and I cordially welcome you to a new installment of this program here on the Horror Show. We have been scaling back on the Horror Show to 1 episode a day as opposed to 2, and in this case we have gone back to just 1 hail per week. I know, kind of a bummer, but it does hopefully give a little bit more preparation to having a longer episode and to covering things more in depth and adequately, and in this case getting back to viewer questions. That's right, and this is a shout out to Kaylee Marie Edwards, who has been just banging down my door trying to get me to do this episode for quite some time, and it's finally here. So if you have any particular topic you would really like me to cover, I'm going to be doing 1 a month onward going forward, and so yes, make sure to jump in the comments below and just let me know if there is a Sai King topic that you would like to have me give just the small amount of insight that I have amassed over the time of reading everything that Sai King has published. And so yes, humbled and honored to be here with all of you, but to the task at hand, we have my countdown of my 10 favorite endings to novels. Yes, this is the novel edition of favorite endings because, boy, as I started crunching just the amount of short stories, especially with great endings, and then the few novellas as well that ended terrifically, I was just like, it's got to be a separate video, man. You know, it just, and plus, then you guys get multiple videos as opposed to you know, just like one super duper crazoid video or whatever. But when I did the post-accident countdown recently, that was almost an hour long, and people seem to like those longer format ones, and I enjoy just gabbing about Sai King. I love this palaver with all of you. So, my 10 favorite endings to Stephen King novels. Now, there are a couple honorable mentions that I just have to throw out there. Yes, Cecil hates when I do the honorable mention thing, but there's at least a few that I just have to really, you know, take the time to make note of. Definitely the Tommy Knockers is one that almost made this list because of the fact that just with Guard's sacrifice and with like most of like a big chunk of the town being, you know, taken in for like, you know, experiments or whatever, you know, and the CIA and the FBI and the shop coming in and everything. But then when we find our cool, you know, lost little magician boy and stuff in the hospital room and everything, it's it gives some like a nice silver lining of closure. But it's such an effed up ending to that book. I think as far as Sai King stuff goes, it is easily one of the most underrated of all of his stuff. I love when King melds science fiction along with his horror because he does not do it very often. And the ending of that book is just bonkers, man. It really, really is. And I love the self-sacrifice of Guard. Self-sacrifice for the greater good of others is something that you will see later on in this list with one of my favorite endings that has ever been in a Stephen King novel. But yeah, the Guard sacrifice and, you know, all that stuff, I mean, it's great. It really, really is good. So another one that I have to mention, and this is actually a Bachman book. Now, there's some people who really dig the crazy crashing plane, all that stuff, you know, for Running Man, and I appreciate that, you know. And even though this one is not my favorite Bachman book, for me it just ends so, stuff flying at me, man. Crazy fly just flew right in my ear, damn it. Yeah, Fuego freaking out. But yeah, so there's a book called Roadwork. And Roadwork is about this guy, you know, lost his parent and everything, and he's going through, you know, depression and craziness and whatnot, and they're trying to put this roadway through, you know, where his home is, and, you know, they're trying to buy him out, you know, this, you know, development company and everything. And so it really comes down to him, like, just I don't know, just stowing away in like this standoff of sorts at his house, and, you know, he talks to this reporter at the end that he had ended up talking to, you know, years before and stuff, and, you know, they don't remember each other, but just him blowing him in, this fly is driving me crazy, him blowing his house up and everything at the very and that's actually one thing I have to say. This is warning everybody that you would hopefully think that if I'm talking endings of books, this is all spoilers, okay? I'm gonna do my best to, you know, just kind of maybe vaguely at times go through stuff just in case there's some people who don't want the full hardcore spoiler. But I mean, if I'm talking about the endings of Stephen King books, you know, do not be that person, okay? But yeah, homie ends up blowing his house up, and then the journalists who were covering the event, you know, they end up winning like Pulitzers, if I remember correctly, and stuff. So it's just, you feel so bad for the plight of our lead in road work, and his name eludes me unfortunately at the moment. But yeah, that's one that just, it's just depressing, man, and depressing in just, I don't know, I love sad endings. I do, I really, really do. I mean, some of my favorite films of all time, boy, A Simple Plan, horribly sad ending to that one. A Perfect World with Kevin Costner, horribly sad ending to that one. Falling Down, Michael Douglas, horribly sad ending. Those are three that come to mind right off the bat. So I dig those kind of just like crush your heart and, you know, destroy your spirits sort of endings, and Roadwork definitely has one of those. But as far as something completely different, the ending of Dr. Sleep, where we get a specific reunion with you know, Jack's spirit, which is still where, you know, where the Overlook used to be, and it's like these campgrounds and stuff now, and just stuff with him and Danny, and, you know, him seeing his father again, albeit in, you know, a spiritual sense and stuff. And some may think that the inevitable just confrontation with the True Knot and everything isn't really as satisfying as you would have liked it. And that's the one thing about King. A lot of people say it's like, okay, the confrontation with the big bad, it's rarely as satisfying as, you know, the journey there. People say King, you know, he botches the landing a lot of the time, and I guess maybe you could contend that to some degree, but it's really just at the end of the book, that going down, and that I love that bit, especially at the end. End of Watch is another one where, even if it's the weakest of the trilogy, in my estimation, I didn't necessarily like going supernatural. The confrontation with, you know, Hodges and Holly, and, you know, Brady at the very end, and Brady going all, like, super psychic mode, you know, he's gone Super Saiyan or whatever shit. But I must say, I guess I won't completely spoil this, but the graveyard scene at the very end, it just gets me, man. It really, really does. And you may see it as an inevitability as you're reading the three books, and so it's satisfying in that super just sad and cathartic sort of way. I really, really like the end of Watch. So, and then I'm gonna just do a little 2-for-1er here as my last honorable mention, in the fact that the Talisman and Black House, they both end very differently, but they both end incredibly satisfyingly. So, you know, at the end of the Talisman, I mean, hey, Jack gets the Talisman, you know, he's back there with his mother, you know, he's like emptying it out, and she's resuscitated and she's okay and everything, and it's just, I mean, even shortly before that, where he sees the other wolf, and, you know, and he's remembering just the quality of friendship and all of that, and just, it's very satisfying. And then the very last page is just a few sentences of the Queen waking up back in the territories. It's just like, you know, because they're twinnies and everything, his mom and the Queen, and very satisfying. And then the end of Black House, where you think Jack is pretty much dead, but, you know, he ends up back in the territories where he's able to be resuscitated, and we're still waiting on that third book, Straub and Stevie. Like, let's get it done, man, let's get it done. So yeah, that duo, I don't like Black House as much as some people. I don't know, the stuff with the Breakers is cool, and just really introducing, you know, some of that stuff. But as a whole, it's still the ending was what won me over with Black House and got me to really, really appreciate it, even if I, by a very large margin, prefer the ending to the Talisman and the journey that is the Talisman, you know, going through the wastelands. And wolf! It's so good. So now we get to our 10 proper, and I'm not going to do this in any particular order, because even if, as I tried to rank these, I'm like, well, that's, you know, that's really good for that reason, and that's really good for that reason. But I guess I will do my best to kind of go through it as such. And so Needful Things is one that ends in such a, I mean, we see a lot of destruction of town stuff. I mean, hell, I was just talking about it in the Tommyknockers, you know, but the destruction of Castle Rock, as, you know, as Leland has, you know, puppet mastery, you know, manipulated all these people against each other. But the ending is so satisfying because of the fact that it shows that cyclical nature of the fact that he gets away, and you see his true form and everything, and it's just very cool, and it just gives you that impression that this could happen again anywhere else in any other town, and we're still waiting for either a prequel or a sequel with one of the best villains that we have ever had in CDK lore, at least in my estimation. I mean, Leland is fascinating, he's sophisticated, and it's just, I don't know. It was billed as the last Castle Rock story, and as we all know, that didn't exactly happen, but hey, nonetheless, I just love the bad guy getting away, and the fact that King doesn't always, honestly, he rarely decides to go that route, really. I mean, honestly, some of the few times where we actually see it more often than not is in his short stories, because of the fact that so many of the shorts have the whole, what the twist, you know, they've got the Twilight Zone, EC Comics kind of thing going down. But yeah, I mean, bring on more Leland, and the fact that he actually got to get away, you know, and, you know, Sheriff wasn't able to bring him down. Sorry, y'all. So number 9 is one that, you know, some people love the Carpenter movie. I guess it's okay, you know, it's not one of my absolute favorites, you know, but Christine. So the ending of Christine is especially fascinating because it's very tragic, you know, everything that goes down with Arnie and his death, and just the whole possession aspect, as opposed to, it's, the book has so many more layers, which is obviously the cliche, and I love just, you know, especially when I reread it last year, I gained so much more of an appreciation for it, especially with the different sections being told from different viewpoints and stuff. And, you know, I mean, Dennis, who is our main character, essentially, like him after he gets hurt, and, you know, he's gone for a good chunk of the second act and everything. And I love the end in the fact that, so him and the girl, you know, Lee, I want to say, if I remember correctly, they don't end up working out, whatever. And so it's years later, and you think Christine's been destroyed, but then there is this, there's this newspaper, like, report or whatever, if I recall correctly, and basically the last member of that gang that, you know, Christine was taking everybody out of, he's working at a movie theater in LA and finally gets killed. You know, a car runs into this place and runs over, you know, the attendant and everything, and Arnie is just, like, positive that Christine has somehow been able to get rebuilt, or, you know, as you see at the end of the Carpenter movie, you know, when Bad to the Bone is coming on. But I just prefer the ending of the book, and the fact that it's so chilling that Arnie knows it's kind of inevitable that it's eventually going to get him, and there's really very little, if anything, that he can do, because it's eventually going to find him. It's really chilling. It's really cool. So that is our number 9. So let's jump into number 8. And man, I keep jumping around. You know what? I will just go with this one because I know it's a controversial pick. A lot of people don't like the ending of The Stand. They feel like, especially the uncut version, it drags, you know, and we have our big, you know, confrontation in Vegas, but then you've got M-O-O-N, that spells Tom Cullen, and Stu, and just very slowly, ploddingly making their way back. I mean, it's on par with the plotting nature of near the end of Book 7 of The Dark Tower, you know, where it's just, you know, him and Susanna, and I mean, they're just trying so hard to finally get to the tower, and it's just grueling, and it's just a trudge sort of thing. But I honestly love the end of The Stand, the end of The Stand, when the circle reopens and everything, and you just realize the cyclical nature of evil. And people debate whether Flag, you know, was killed and then reborn on this island with these Aborigine, you know, these natives or whatever, or whether he was just able to teleport himself out of Vegas. I've heard both theories. I've always thought that he was killed, was blown up, and then for whatever reason, you know, much like with Mordred killing him, he'll just show back up somewhere. You know, that's just what he does. He's that special sort of, like, just recycling evil, you know, as the wheel turns, you know. I mean, he will just be alive again, and I don't know, I always found that chilling. I love the bookends of the uncut edition of The Stand. I think that they add some very interesting, just additional, just little meat and nuance to chew on, and I love the bit where, you know, Flag shows back up on this ocean shore, and, you know, you just realize, oh man, he's going to be back at it once again. He's just starting it at a different facet, and you know, a different area of the world or whatever, because I mean the stand being told from its entirety, you know, in the States, as opposed to seeing what the hell else is going on, you know, in various areas of the country. There's mention of South America and, you know, stuff, but so yeah, I personally at number 8, I really do love the end of The Stand. And how could you not love the end of like one of the 3 best Stephen King books ever, man, I tell you. So next up, we are going to go with number 7, and once again, no particular order here, but number 7 is going to be The Sacrifice in the Dead Zone. I love it. I love it. Johnny Smith, man, and just a sacrifice that's never known. I actually wrote a song called A Sad Departure for a Valiant Fighter in my very first band, and it was loosely inspired by, you know, just realizing the extent of evil with our politician, who was gonna, I mean, inevitably just, you know, bring about, you know, apocalypse, destruction, oblivion, all that silliness, and, you know, just the way that he, you know, very forcefully gets himself in the situation, and, you know, he gets killed and everything, and then where he grabs Stilson and he realizes that he has succeeded, and then even the notes from the Dead Zone stuff at the very end, where, you know, you get some of the excerpts from, you know, Senate stuff, if I remember correctly, and but really the one for me is where Sarah, you know, goes to the grave, and she can just like still kind of feel his presence, and, you know, just the reflections of what could have been and everything. It's such a, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's just such a noble thing that dude did, you know, and the fact that, man, nobody will ever really know aside from him just the magnitude of what he was able to accomplish by sacrificing his life. That is so profound to me, and I love the ending of the Dead Zone. I truly do. So at number 6, number 6 is going to be, man, this is tough because I'm wavering between a few right here, but, you know, I will go with the ending of, yeah, you know, I'll go with the ending of Pet Sematary, actually. The ending of Pet Sematary, and, and how could I not have this on here, because it's just such a dark ending, you know, where basically, you know, Lewis has, he goes and he buries Rachel, and he's so hopeful that, you know, he could get a different outcome this time. And then also where the one guy that he works with at the college, you know, sees him looking all super crazy and, you know, going over the deadfall and everything, and he starts to kind of follow him, and he feels the presence, and he's like just losing sight of everything, and he goes and, you know, he's basically following him, and then he just has a strange momentary lapse, and just, you know, after he falls down and, you know, just decides, screw this, you know, I'm leaving Ludlow entirely. But obviously where Rachel comes back at the very end and Lewis sees her, and I do in some ways prefer the ambiguity of the book versus the very decisiveness that King decided to slightly alter with the scripted ending for the Pet Sematary film. But I don't know, there's just something to that. Does she kill him? You know, like, how bad is she? You know, where she comes in and she's like, darling, and everything. It's chilling, and it's a perfect ending to such a messed up book. And I don't know, I did see the film before I read the book, so obviously I will always have the Lewis scream from the film in my head and just always assume, oh yeah, that's right, you know, she shows up and then she kills him. But for those before, you know, in those 6 years before the film came out, just does she or doesn't she? You know, I think there's something really cool about that, and just very chilling and crazoid about just what a wonderfully dark ending to such an effed up book, you know. So Pet Sematary, the ending, that is the one that I have to mention. So at number 5, we have what I almost just did at 6, but I love the ending of The Dark Tower, The Wind Through the Keyhole. And you know, everybody knows, if you've read it, it's a story within a story within a story, and it is the absolute end that I'm talking about, you know. And it's basically where, so then, you know, they get through the Stark Blast and all that stuff, and, you know, we have jumped out of, you know, our story with, you know, our young boy in the Covenant Man, and how he goes on his journey to, you know, save the mom, and all this different stuff. So tropes that we've seen from Stevie K before, but the end of the book, where Roland you know, reads the note from his deceased mother and everything, and it's all about forgiveness, and it's about just making amends for just misgivings and for bad decisions and everything, and from just the fact that just the love of a mother for her son. You know, if I recall correctly, the final words practically are, you know, just to forgive, and the importance of it, and just being understanding that people make mistakes. And now granted, tons and tons of mistakes, it's debatable, obviously, but there is something just so beautiful about the ending of The Wind Through the Keyhole, and just Roland and, you know, and his mother, and the tragedy of it all, and the fact that he's responsible for her death. But I don't know, you're left with a feeling of emptiness after The Wind Through the Keyhole with regards to their relationship, and the end of Wizard and Glass with regards to their relationship. But there's some awesome repair work that is done, in my opinion, with the very end of The Wind Through the Keyhole. It legitimately brought me to tears, guys. It legitimately brought me to tears. As far as another one that legitimately brought me to tears, I mean, how could I not mention the end of 11/22/63? I mean, where Epping basically, I mean, just going back and finding Sadie and all grown up and everything, and well, not just grown up, grown old, I should specify, and just what he was willing to sacrifice to let her live, you know, and that hopeless romanticism that dwells deep within me. It's just, God, it's so bittersweetly just beautiful, man. I keep dropping some, like, it's tough to continue, then, you know, just finding some of these adjectives and just reflecting upon some of this, and it is a gorgeously heartbreaking finale. And I mean, just him showing up at you know, at that function at the school and everything, and just seeing her aged and everything, and just knowing that he made the right decision, even if it was so incredibly hard on him, and he knows that he could have just gone back and met her again and forged forward once again and just lived back then. And also, I mean, the ending shortly before that, where you realize that, you know, not necessarily tampering with history, and, you know, the whole Back to the Futurisms of it, and just how sometimes it works out good and sometimes it doesn't. And I guess in the Back to the Future case, it did work out good, so why the hell am I making that comparison? But yeah, nonetheless, if you want a tear jerker, like break out the Notebook status amounts of Kleenex boxes, yeah, the end of 11/22/63. And I felt like with the Hulu series, they did a really, really good job of just capturing that scene as well. It gets you, man, gets you in the feels, as my boy Cecil would say. So there is only a couple left now at this particular point, y'all, and I guess it's time. Yeah, it's time to go for it, because it is, at least in the Hail to Stephen King Ka-Tet, the Facebook group, which everybody, if you are not familiar, there is a Hail to Stephen King Facebook group where I am the sole admin and moderator on, and you know, I've had like my fair share of different like fans and friends and stuff, that I get a lot of messages about Stephen King from people on both Facebook and you know, like email and Twitter and, you know, even Instagram. And I like never check my messages on Instagram, but I just want to extend apologies for anybody that I don't get back to in a super timely basis, because I get a lot, man, and I don't often have a ton of time for a lot of direct palaver like I would really want to. I actually, just to be a little candid, there was somebody just this past week that I saw a message from and I just didn't get back to in as timely of a fashion as I would have liked, and I legitimately felt bad about that. I truly did. So please do not get discouraged or upset, you know, and know that, you know, our, you know, path on the beam and our Kef is real, everybody. And, you know, but so Facebook group, there is over 550 awesome other constant readers on there to share your thoughts, your criticisms, all of these different awesome things with. But the ending of Revival, holy shnikes, man. I gotta tell you, there's few more downer endings in the Stephen King verse than the ending of Revival, and that's why whenever the hell they finally get around to making this into a film, they better not try to silverline it, because this is definitely one that Stevie K did not silverline, and just the confrontation aspect with Jacobs and Jaime, and then trying to bring back the married chick or whatever. But just the whole revelation about the null and what is on the other side, and just what awaits for everyone in death, and like the insect servitude shizzle that you really read about. And you know, it's funny because, you know, Jacobs, after the body of the married woman gets possessed by the mother, who was like one of the big bads on that other side of death, and you know, they fight her and kill her, and you know, Jaime makes the death look like it, you know, I don't know, that Jacobs tried to kill this woman, and just all this different stuff. He basically fixes up the crime scene and everything, and then he runs off to, what, Hawaii, if I remember correctly. But he's hooked on antidepressants. You start hearing more and more reports about all the people that Jacobs had allegedly helped that are killing themselves, or they're basically like catatonic, you know, institutionalized whateverness. And the book basically ends with Jaime realizing that eventually he will die, and he will be in the null, in crazy Lovecraftian servitude of insect, cockroach, whatever the hell you want to call them. It's depressing, man, and it really, you're just like, no, there is no paradise that awaits you. There is only the null. It's messed the fuck up. And as far as dark Stephen King endings go, it may actually be darker than the ending that we get from Pet Sematary, because of that ambiguity that I talked about. I mean, really, as far as dark endings go, there's that might be the darkest ending ever to a Stephen King novel. Not a short story, and remember, I'm going to do the short story countdown. That is still going to be a thing, short story ending countdown. But yeah, I don't think there's any darker, man. I think that's to quote Mr. Glenn Danzig, blackest of the black, darker than night. Yeah, that is where it's at. So, all right, so yeah, we have been slowly making our way through all of these, and there's only, if I'm not mistaken, just 2 remaining things to say, and you probably have a good idea. What they're going to be. Number 2, we have the ending to It, and the ending to It, yes, it's another story with going to the lair of a baddie and having the confrontation. You have it in The Outsider, you have it in Doomakey, you have it in Insomnia. I've talked about this countless times, where you're just like, okay, we're doing it again. Okay, that's cool, but okay. But this is legit, maybe one of the best, because of what happens after. And so after defeating, you know, or at least presumably defeating, you know, Bob Gray, Pennywise, interdimensional demon alien, whatever the hell, the part that gets me so heavily is just the fact that as you know, as Big Bill and his wife are riding around on you know, on his stallion, you know, silver away, he basically is already forgetting, you know, the last name of, like, Ben. He's forgetting, you know, what did Richie do, you know, as his job as an adult, and all of these different things. And that is the most bittersweet and sad thing, is just how quick memory fades. And obviously, in this particular case, like, with the mad quickness, like, we're talking, like, I mean, rapido fire, everybody. And just the fact that they're not going to remember each other after leaving Derry. And it's seriously soul-crushing, in my estimation, that just the quality of their friendship, the magnitude of what they accomplished, even as adults, and just remembering everything. But it is just kind of the weird sway of Derry. And, you know, I guess, like the old woman says, no one in Derry really dies. But it's basically, I don't know, those memories are just, you know, they're just being thrown in the closet where they'll be forgotten about, but I guess they're still there, so you never know. Who knows, maybe there is some sort of weird It sequel that could come at some particular time where, yes, 27 more years have passed, and turns out you didn't even kill it that time. But I guess that would really kill some of the resonance and the poignancy of this ending, and the bittersweetness of how very similar to themes that are explored in Christine, of how as we age, friendships fade, and as people mature and go their separate ways and everything. But it just gets me, man, especially just thinking about so many of the friendships that I've lost, people that I've lost touch with, and where I'm just trying to remember these amazing experiences, and they're fuzzy, they're foggy. You know, that's why photographs and, you know, journals and things of that nature, in my estimation, are really, really important and really cool, because of the fact that, I mean, I've been a songwriter for like 20 years now, you know, and you know, it started out as poems and things like that. And when I go back and I reflect on like lyrics I wrote when I was 19 years old, the most formative year of my life, I look back at some of the stuff I wrote when I was 19, and a lot that I've forgotten about, it transports me right back, and it's just like, it's craziness, man. It really, really genuinely is. And so the ending of it, it's the ending of it, it's a humdinger, man. Yeah, and what can I say? If you've read it, you understand it so much more than you do with the ending of the miniseries. Honestly, in some ways, it's captured a little bit better in the end of Mucchetti's film, because of the fact that, you know, there's the circle of kids, and then one leaves, and then another leaves, and another leaves, and it's like everybody is slowly fading, you know. And so now we're to number 1, and I guess in some ways this did entitle a countdown, because there's no other thing, at least for a tower junkie like me, that would not be number 1. It saved the book for me, honestly, because the end of the Dark Tower, basically the end of the entire saga, there's 2 endings. Because you've got the happy ending, we're drinking chocolate, it's Christmas and we're in New York, and you're just like, well, okay, sure thing, whatever. And you know that it's a different level of the tower, it's a different turn of the wheel, it's not quite, you know, Susanna's New York, but she's there, and she's with, I mean, she's with Jake, you know, and she's with Eddie, and even if it's not quite, even if they're brothers now, it's still just, I don't know. The ending I'm talking about is where Roland finally gets the chance, Mr. Deschain, to ascend his tower. And he's crying out the names of all the people who have been there with him. You know, we're talking everybody from, you know, Jaime to Cuthbert to Elaine to, you know, I mean, Shimi, Brodigan, everybody gets a reminder here as he is slowly making his way up to the top. And after that really just very lackluster and anticlimactic just final conflict with the Crimson King, so goddamn disappointing. It's throwing blah blah blah, so dumb, man. But what saved it for me was where he finally gets to the top. Doesn't have his horn, unfortunately, so y'all know what that means. Yeah, especially if you've read the books, because he opens up that door at the very top of the tower, and we end with the same thing that we started with. That's right. Let's read it, shall we? To end the series with the very first phrase that we started with. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. I actually just finally obtained awesome hardcovers of the first four. Because I've had hardcovers of, you know, obviously 5 through 7 and, you know, 4.5 for a while. But finally tracking these down at a reasonable price. And here in Arizona, there is a chain called Bookman's. And those sell for like 50, 60 bucks, I want to say. I've seen them go as high as that. And yeah, I got them for like 17 each, and then I got one of them for free because I got one of those punch cardy things. So I made out like a bandit, yo. Traded some stuff in, that some Barker stuff that I wasn't super feeling, and then a couple other books, some Joe R. Lansdale and stuff. So nice to have those, but that is my favorite ending to a Stephen King book because of the fact that it just shows that creepy cyclical nature of, you know, our world, you know, Keystone, I mean everything, the entire universe basically, and the fact that, you know, just the wheel turns, everybody. So let's just do a brief little run back of everything. So my top 10 were Needful Things, we had Christine, we had The Stand, complete and uncut, so that particular version. We had The Dead Zone, we had oh boy, 11/22/63. We had Dark Tower Wind Through the Keyhole. We had Pet Sematary. We had It. we had Revival, and yes, we had The Dark Tower 7. The Dark Tower. So once again, shout out to Kaylee. Thank you so very much for getting on my ass about just finally doing this video. Now there will be a companion video. I don't think it's going to be the next episode of Hail to Stephen King, but it will come sometime soon, which will be probably favorite endings of novels and novellas. So just basically shorter forms of Sai King storytelling, and I very much look forward to getting that out to all of you. So I've been Jaime and Fuego, that's right. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and here on the YouTubes, but not just here on The Horror Show. Because if you go to youtube.com/Jaime and Fuego, just like you see spelled, yes, I know it looks like Jamie, but it's Jaime. That's been the other way. And yes, you will find my personal channel, Fuego-tainment. I just recently did a review of Stuber. I've been doing Star Wars coverage all year so far, and there is more of that coming as we creep closer to the rise of Skywalker. But obviously, you are here on The Horror Show, where for a great long while we did 2 episodes a day, but we have some very exciting projects that are starting to brew, including, well, one very big project that Cecil has been hinting at for a while that all of us are so supremely stoked about. So yes, I apologize once more for anybody who is sad that it is now back to weekly worship as opposed to doing 2 episodes every single week on Tuesdays and Saturdays. I'm trying to get Cecil to get me back to the Sunday slot that I originally had, because wouldn't that be the wheel turning all the way back around, because this was originally a Sunday show, not a Tuesday, Saturday show. But this is a Saturday when you're seeing this, so yes, if you have not liked, shared, subscribed here on The Horror Show, please do, because trailer reactions, film, book, comic, television reviews, convention coverage. I believe we have put up, most recently I did the panel about the year of 19 Stephen King panel that I did at Phoenix Fan Fusion along with the awesome Shane Hunt and Cecil and Marcia, so that was a blast. If you get the chance, please check that out. And yes, all kinds of other radness to you know, scope your eyes on as well. And I guess that's going to be the end of the proceedings. Remember to check out the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group once again, and I guess that's going to be all for me today. So until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, I shall say hasta luego, sin amigos, and constant readers and viewers alike. I am personally hopeful that we get to share more of this palaver sooner rather than later. Say thank you, and until then, remember to stay scared and read Stephen King. And that ending to Revival, holy shit.